Most people were taught to follow the rules with money. Save it, spend it, borrow it, pay interest, hope retirement works out. But what if the rules were written by the very system keeping you stuck? Welcome to Cashflow Legendz, the show where we challenge conventional financial thinking, expose the hidden leaks in your cash flow, and help families and business owners build more control, certainty, and legacy. This show is for educational purposes only, not financial, tax, or legal advice. Hosted by Nate, Brandon, and Brock. Money, cash flow, legacy. Break the rules. Build your legend.
What's going on, Nate? Welcome to everybody that is joining us on our weekly Cashflow Legendz. Now, normally Nate's the hair guy and I'm the hat guy. Okay, but Nate's trying to rain on my parade. No, I'm just kidding. I know he woke up with a headache, so he didn't want to fix his hair this morning. But Nate, I'm glad you're here. Tell me one thing that you're grateful for, because you and I were talking this morning before we hit record about the reality that gratefulness and what the Lord provided for us really impacts the condition of our heart and what really matters the most.
I'm going to say this with a lot of humility. I'm grateful that our wives get to work when they want to work, not when they have to work.
I would agree with that. I wasn't planning on going there, but I'll second that. But I'll also add what I'm grateful for is, I told you this already. We had this morning our men in Crossroads Baptist Church had been meeting for lunch at once a month and kind of had a devotional, and it's time for iron to sharpen iron, but they changed it to Monday morning, and I was able to take Lincoln, our next youngest, with me because they're on spring break. We had over 20 men there where we just got to pray over prayer requests and fellowship and have a little devotional, Nate. So it was just a great reminder that, men, if you don't have that in your life, start looking for where God's working that you can join. And accountability with other men, no matter how flawed we are, will allow you to see that we are all similar in the sense that the things we think we're struggling with that nobody else could understand is pretty common.
I mean, we say this all the time, like the enemy loves isolation, and the enemy loves for you to feel like you're all alone and you're the only one going through this thing. But 9 times out of 10, you get around a group of other men, trusted relationships, you start opening up and sharing and being vulnerable, and you find out, oh, wow, like I am not on an island by myself in this world. And the stupid things that I think about and the stupid things that I say and the stupid things I do, all that stuff, I'm not alone in that either.
Nope. Nope. And Nate, it's actually probably it's more abnormal for it to be not similar to somebody else. Like, I can't think the last time that you and I were on an accountability call or on a coaching call or on one of our men's group calls where somebody said something and the whole group goes, man, I can't relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually the other way around, going, oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody else said it,
Yeah. And oftentimes it's been held on to for months and months and years, assuming that nobody will understand.
Yep.
And so that's a good segue into our conversation today. We're going to be really talking about quickly how there's an invisible truth to money and rates and interest rates that we just are not taught. And if we can understand this, it will begin to give us the key to the invisible handcuffs that keep us shackled to the system that banks and Wall Street and IRS created when it's related to interest rates. Nate, how many times have we said in our prior thinking, before we read Becoming Your Own Banker, before we began to realize how little we actually knew about the banking world and just interest rates in general, have we said or thought, man, I got a 3.25 rate of return, or I got a 0% rate of return, and man, I'm just killing it?
You mean interest rate?
Interest
not
rate,
rate of
sorry.
return.
Yeah. Thanks, Nate. Just be sure you're paying attention.
I don't think anybody brags about their 0% rate of return.
I got a 3.25% interest rate on that vehicle I purchased, or that house mortgage.
No, we're very, very proud of low interest rates. When we can secure a loan or something like that at a low rate, below market rate, things like that.
Oh, we're not going to beat up the industry, and we're not going to make you feel bad about yourself, because Nate and I first want to say we have done these things. This is something that we've learned the hard way. We're still learning. Okay. But when it reminds me of that saying, and I don't remember what it is exactly about statistics, Nate, but you can make statistics say whatever you want to. You can make a number prove your point, but it doesn't always mean it's exactly what's happening. Okay. And so average versus actual is a good example. We won't dive into that today, but the average rate of return somewhere versus the actual rate of return, when you factor in lost opportunity cost, taxes, inflation, worry, stress, it's not all the same. But today, Nate, we're going to be talking about the true numbers behind an interest rate. We're going to show you, and we want you to go through your numbers. And if you come up with numbers that are lower than what we come up with consistently, or we are so far off that you're like, y'all are wrong, y'all don't know how to do math, let us know. Nelson Nash does a great job of talking about this in his YouTube clips, Nate, because there's a part in Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker. By Becoming Your Own Banker, I got it open right here, the page we're going to be talking about. You can get it off of our website, get access to our course, but this is the foundation of everything we teach, where Nelson says that the average American, the average Joe, Nate, has 34.5% of his dollar gone, eroded, disappears before he ever gets to spend it, or before he has access to it. Say it another way, Nate. You have a creative way to put things sometimes that I don't.
Well, if you add up all the payments that we're making on our vehicles, our house, our lifestyle, all that stuff, of those things that we're paying for, that we got to pay for anyways at some level, the average person is sending 34.5% of those payments to interest alone.
Yeah. So said another way, because I need simple math, Nate, you and I do for our Legion Fields education. If I had $100, $34.50 of that is going to interest alone across houses, cars, all things leaving our life. So said another way, our $100 has a drag on it that is keeping us from getting to where we want to go with our money, because we're always facing that 34.5%. So Nelson says, quite comically, that he's been challenged on that, many, many, many times. So he would say, hey, go do the math yourself, which we're going to show you just so you can see one example. And he said, they always call back and say it's worse than the 34.5%.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about a few reasons why. Because America is really good at consuming, and a couple of examples of that today are going to be refinancing a house, but we're going to focus on cars or vehicles today. And so, Nate, we did a little bit of quick research, and you said what'd you plug in about a 72-month note? Kind of walk through those logistics.
Well, I wanted to know, on average, how long does someone pay on a 72-month car note before they decide that they need to upgrade, trade in, so to speak? Chat said it's typically 36 to 40 months is when somebody gets the itch for a different vehicle. And so one of the things that Nelson talks about in the book is there is such an enormous percentage of vehicles that are traded in that still have a balance on them. And so what ends up happening is that negative equity will get rolled
down, some people call it.
Yeah, it'll get rolled into the existing note. And so not only are they paying interest again on, they're paying more interest on top, they're also paying interest on the new vehicle purchase. And so the point is, every time you sign up for a car loan, the interest is front loaded. So an amortization schedule, you can go look at a 30-year amortization schedule on a house. And what you'll see is, just making minimum payments, year 20, 22-ish, somewhere around there, is typically when it finally flips to where there's more of the payment being applied to the principal than it being applied to the interest.
Yeah, Nate, said another way, when you do the math on the mortgage, and pull up your own amortization schedule on your mortgage. The first 7 to 10 years, roughly 65 to 75 to even sometimes 80% of all of those payments, the volume of all those payments went to interest.
Brandon, you know this story because I've shared it many times, but for those who don't, I got to experience this firsthand and needed to take some nausea medicine after I ran the numbers, because before we learned about IBC or anything like that, we had purchased a house in 2011 and we sold that house in 2018. I went back and added up all the money that I had paid over those 7 years and figured out that the volume of interest that the true rate of interest that I had paid was around 65 or 70%.
Got all that payment.
So I didn't have a 3.5% mortgage loan. I had a 65 to 70%. And the reality is, and what Nelson is trying to help people understand, is most people do not live in houses 40 or 50 years anymore.
Nope.
The average person is moving every 5 to 10 years just because of business culture and family dynamics and all this other stuff. Like, it just takes us different places.
Yep.
Life takes us a lot of different places now. And so most people will not see the end of their amortization schedule. They will not pay it out to the end because they're going to reset the calculator on the interest at some point.
And this is something that I think is very important for everybody to grasp that listens to this. Because if you're feeling some kind of icky feeling or some kind of like, I've been lied to, or some version of, I think Brandon and Nate don't know what they're talking about, that's a good indicator you need to do some exploration on your thinking about how you think. Because if it makes you go, I'm skeptical on that, that's good. Skepticism's good. Remaining there's not. But Nate, there's a line in the first page of Nelson's book that I want to emphasize here. We're just telling you what's going on. We're helping you see the problem. A low rate of interest does not mean the same thing of how much money you're keeping. It's all part of the game. It's all a part of the illusion. But Nelson says this, Nate, this book, this mindset, this concept is about how one finances the things of life. It's about certainty and control, Nate. It's not just about the fact that you could pay off your house and do it way more efficiently, or you could pay off vehicles and do it way more efficiently. It's about the fact of what is going on regardless. And we need to understand that and understand the solution. But we got to know the problem first. So Nate, let's look at the math. And you and I get to have this conversation all the time. So we're going to share something just so you can see it. All right, Nate. So what we're looking at here is the exact numbers. And so you said that the average American, if they finance a car for 72 months, now maybe you finance it for 84, maybe you finance it for 60, maybe you did it for 36. Okay, still do the math. And for my cash only people out there, this does not exclude you, because you're still making payments to yourself to save up cash and losing opportunity when your money's sitting in the wrong environment. So Nate, at month 40 on what did we decide the vehicle cost was?
30 grand.
30 grand?
Yeah.
Which is low. You ain't hardly getting a
sure.
car for 30 grand brand new at 72 months. Okay. But we're going super conservative. 30 grand vehicle financed for 72 months.
I think we did 6%.
6% interest. Yeah. And what we're saying here is you are choosing to sell or trade in at month 40. Mileage is too high, not running well, whatever the case may be. Okay. Or you just want a new car. That happens a lot. Okay. So in that 40th month, and you can do all this math on an amortization schedule, $4,556 is paid to the interest total. The total amount paid is $19,887. $4,500 is 22%, almost 23% of the total amount paid. Said another way, by payment number 40, about 22.9 cents of every dollar that was paid overall has gone to interest.
Yeah. And something else that chat brought up was And in most cases, if you're only halfway in to a schedule, in a lot of cases, you're still upside down on that as well, which means that you haven't caught up with the depreciation of the vehicle.
Yep. So Nate, if there were a way to do the exact same thing and you keep control of the payments, you keep control of the terms, your money does not get interrupted while you are making this car purchase, who would say no to that?
I don't know. I mean,
Nobody does.
well, I mean, it goes back to something that Nelson said is like, once you truly understand the problem, then you will know what to do.
Yeah.
And the more and more we lean into understanding the power of controlling the banking function, the more clarity we have about what we want to do and what we don't want to do.
Yeah, Nate, the key piece in this is first we have to become okay with the fact that it just so happens that taking over the process of banking in our life for all the things that we could need financing for works best through the product of whole life insurance with a mutual company that's paid dividends for 100 plus years. They work best together. It doesn't have to be whole life insurance. It just won't work as good.
Yeah.
And that is where the aha moment happens for all of us. So where we hit a clear line in the sand and we go, I either have misunderstandings about whole life, I've been informed wrong about whole life, or my understanding is a half understanding or misunderstanding.
Well, and there's really two key things to understand with why whole life is actually a more valuable asset to use over anything else. First off, it's non-correlated, which means the market volatility that you would experience in any other asset class is taken off the table. Which is
Okay.
one of the biggest dangers in applying the principle of leverage in your life is when you're using a volatile asset. Well, if you remove volatility, now, I mean, I tell people this all the time, leverage does not have to equal risk. You can introduce, by properly applying the principle of leverage in your life, you can introduce it with low to no risk. So removing volatility is important, but the other side of that is something that is at least keeping up with inflation, that's still moving with the interest rate environment. And so that's another key point is not only do we have something that is not volatile, it's not going up and down, but it's actually staying constant with what's taking place in the interest rate environment in the world. And so that's why whole life insurance is ideal, because the true nature of becoming your own banker is being able to recognize and introduce a level of control in your life that you would have never experienced otherwise. But so control, but also certainty, because we are using a predictable asset. And the reason why we say it's predictable is because we can look back for the last 100 to 150 years on the performance of the mutual insurance company that we are working with and see that they have paid dividends every year consecutively through every economic downturn that you can think of. They have still posted profits and paid dividends to their customers. So,
And Nate, be sure, I always like to emphasize there, you're just talking about the product. We're not even talking about the process of taking over banking.
exactly.
They just go best together.
Yeah. So if you're going to be practicing this process in your life, the only way to truly introduce control and certainty is to use a rock solid foundation to begin with. And then from there, building on and growing and understanding the power of controlling the banking function, and how Nelson talked about what you're seeing on the screen, and what we're talking about is essentially the headwinds that we are facing in our life. It's the invisible numbers that we are facing in our life. You can't see wind, but you know when it's there.
Yeah, especially if you're running into it.
You can't see these invisible numbers, but almost everybody that we talk to feels like they should be further ahead than they are. Everybody feels like they should be further ahead. And it's because they can't see the invisible numbers that are holding them back.
Hey, we've used this example before, but me and my father-in-law drove to Colorado one year, a long time ago. And the way there, the headwind, you could not see it, but you could feel it, as far as how you had to control the vehicle and those kind of things. But what you noticed the most was the result of the reduction of efficiency and gas mileage. And it was dramatic. Coming back home, the wind was behind us. Drive was so much smoother. You could hold the steering wheel a little bit differently, and the gas mileage was much more efficient. This is the same thing that Nate's talking about right now and what we're walking through. One way, the tailwind's behind you. The other way is the invisible headwind. And you are facing, anybody watching is facing a headwind, whether you finance things through, for banks, mortgages, credit cards, whatever the case may be, or you finance to yourself by saving up cash, because the environment is still created by banks, Wall Street, and IRS. Now, let's add this piece real quick, Nate, and then we'll tidy up. If you're somebody who loves market and loves the long-term opportunities there, good. Whole life insurance will just stabilize your portfolio. It'll protect your estate.
You can keep more of your money. You can invest more of your money.
Yeah. Yeah. So this whole idea that whole life is a bad thing is a whole nother podcast episode. I mean, we could probably do 10 episodes on where the history of whole life has gotten to the point to where people think it's a bad thing or they have a misunderstanding of it. Because with enough conversation, Nate, what we find is everybody's like, well, why wouldn't I want this as a part of my life, my family's life, the things we're working on? Because one of the most common questions, Nate, is what's the downside to this? And this statement is, this sounds too good to be true. And it's only because of we haven't been willing to rethink our thinking. But human behavior is always the problem, right, Nate? Because if I walked around and I started this podcast with, hey, Nate, would you rather pay 22%, 22 cents on every dollar to interest? Or would you rather pay 2 cents or 4 cents or 6 cents or no cents? No
Cents a
brainer.
dollar. All for the stand up and holler. I don't know why I just thought of that. You kept going.
So
2 cents, 4 cents, 6 cents a dollar.
Yep.
Anyways. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. So the reality is if we know what's going on behind the scenes and we're willing to, as Nelson said, rethink our thinking, we'll be amazed at what we figure out. And Nate, what we'll also be amazed at, that you and I love, is that you don't ever arrive at that new thing you've learned. It connects you to new knowledge that you're like, oh my goodness, well, if that's true and that's possible, where can my imagination take me next? And Nelson says imagination is more important than just about anything else when it comes to the infinite banking concept and becoming your own banker. So if you've got a car note, if you've got a mortgage, if you've paid mortgages, if you're paying multiple mortgages, multiple car notes, you do the math. You let us know what volume of interest, what volume of your payments has gone to interest. I will be surprised if anybody says it's less than 35%. Won't you, Nate? If you factor in when you resell and everything, or when you trade up or trade in.
Oh, yeah.
Said,
yeah, it's
never has anybody been.
Nelson said he was always trying to be generous and with the numbers.
Yeah.
And we're not here to say you need to go pay off your house or anything like that. What you need to do is just understand what's going on. Because once you understand what's going on, then you will know what to do about it.
Yeah.
And so understanding what's going on for someone who has a mortgage might be, okay, I'm ready to plow through this thing and be done with it.
Yep.
Somebody else might say, I would rather have the ability to pay off my mortgage. That would give me more peace of mind than actually paying it off.
We say often, math isn't always money. Money isn't always math. And if we really get down to it, Nate, on the house example, lots of people want to pay off their house because it's their largest payment, because that's how they associate financial freedom. If I can get my house paid off, I can get that largest payment off the books, and then I'll have some freedom. So we reverse engineer it and go, well, if you could be able to pay it off and you didn't have to, would you still be wanting to pay the house off? And some people say yes.
What if every debt that you have actually has an efficiency score tied to it? And you could clearly see what is the most efficient debt I have and the least efficient debt that I have, and prioritize those. Oh, wait, you can.
And yeah. So Nate and I don't ever want to discourage you if you're like, none of this makes sense to me yet, or I'm not sure. What we want to emphasize is Nate and I spend every hour that we get to work on unlimited life concepts in our business focused on bringing value to people, helping them rethink their thinking, starting with Nelson and becoming your own banker, coming back to Nelson and becoming your own banker, and then just getting better at asking others questions that help them think about their thinking. Because Nate, it does not matter what we know. It only matters if somebody says something's got to change for something to change, because I'm not okay with where we are yet, or I think I should be further ahead, or why do I feel like I'm up against an invisible wind? You are. You are. We hope that brought value to you. We are so thankful that you choose to spend any time listening to us anywhere. And Nate, you say this all the time. We want to share as much information as you want to be shared with you, or we want to teach you as much as you want to learn, if you want to learn. And that's a key indicator. It's probably the number one criteria for people we work with, Nate, right? Is they're willing to say, hey, I don't know everything. And we are also, because we work with people all the time that teach us something new in other areas. So, Nate, you got anything else?
Well, just to finish up with that, I tell people all the time that we don't work with everybody, but it has nothing to do with the amount of money that you have. We are looking for someone who has the right mindset, as you said earlier. And
Right.
so if you show up with the right posture of leaning in and wanting to learn, we'll spend a lot of time pouring into you and investing in you.
So we want to help anyone who wants to be helped, but we are not in the convincing business. We know what this has done for our life and our families and our mindset, and we want to share it with anybody who wants to have it shared with them. Nate, appreciate you, brother, and look forward to doing it again soon. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to Cashflow Legendz. If this episode helped you think differently, subscribe to the show and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And when you're ready to start building your own cash flow system, schedule a clarity call with Nate using the link in the description. Money, cash flow, legacy, break the rules. Build your legend.